So as Jim mentioned, my name is Chris Beesley, and I am the CEO of Community Living Ontario, an organization founded 64 years ago by families as a provincial advocacy body. We work with our local member associations, families of people who have an intellectual disability, and most importantly, the citizens of Ontario who have an intellectual disability. We bring them together and advocate with them, with all of them, to promote and support the human rights of people who have an intellectual disability. Today, we don't have any recommendations to suggest as to how the site should be repurposed, because we don't feel it is for us as an organization to say. Whatever is done with the site, we believe it should never again be a place where people are congregated, segregated, and thereby devalued as human beings. What we do know is that whatever is done with the former Huronia Regional Centre, it should be respectful and honor the people who survived it, as well as those who did not survive. And not just those who lived and died at Huronia, but those who lived and died in all of Ontario's institutions. Of the 16 that operated in this province, this is the only one where survivors are given a chance to have their voices heard. Huronia was the first institution of its kind in Ontario. It was by far the largest, and it was the last to close in 2009. For all these reasons, it is a lightning rod and a symbol of how we in Ontario devalue people who have intellectual disabilities. People were abused here. In his class action suit submission for compensation, one man spoke of the time he was deemed to have misbehaved. So as punishment, he had to take a toothbrush and clean all the toilets. That's unpleasant work at the best of times, and grueling when one has to use a toothbrush. And by the way, he was forced to use his own toothbrush to do that. Most had to line up naked and be herded in groups to communal showers instead of being afforded the dignity of modesty. Some were sexually abused, others were physically abused. Virtually all suffered psychological abuse. So how could any group here today claim to have a more important voice than that of survivors? That is why we at Community Living Ontario don't feel we have the right to say how the site should be repurposed. In having these consultations and listening to various people and groups, we feel that some should be given a stronger consideration than others. And with all due respect, how could we possibly think that the voice of, for instance, the local Chamber of Commerce, the Rotary Club, or other civic organizations and groups should have any equal say in this process compared to those who lived at the former centre? In this case, not all voices should be treated equally. We think that the people who survived Huronia should have the strongest voice, followed by those who survived in any Ontario institution, then perhaps anyone with a developmental disability, then supportive family, friends, and allies, then everyone else. And if there is any profit to be made from this land, surely survivors must benefit. The Premier has already apologized once for Ontario's shameful institutional past. Let's make sure we do the right thing here so that she doesn't have to apologize again. And to that end, and more importantly, to safeguard their voice, we recommend a panel of survivors be struck to vet a short list of perhaps 2 or 3 suggested uses that the government would provide the panel based on this consultation process. The panel's decision would be binding. This would both ensure the legitimacy of the consultation process and the primacy of survivors' voices. Thank you for your time and consideration.